Jack because of your brother, Jack?
Yeah.
But you named him John so he'd be called Jack?
Yeah,
That's
right.
fun. Stan, we're going to read Stan's story from our wonderful, awesome books that Jan was so instrumental in putting together. Stan. The childhood days of all of the Stringer family brothers and sisters were similar in one respect. None of us can say that we had it easy, but we shouldn't harbor too many regrets about all of the adversity we endured. That adversity molded strong characters. We all grew up to be people with substance and backbone. I, for one, am thankful that we had loving parents who really cared for us. Even though they weren't able to help us much with material things, they always did whatever they could to provide a home with love in it. God bless them. My memory of my childhood begins approximately in the year 1928. These are my memories. Glen Albin Drive, Mount Washington. Dusty roads, steep hills, canyons, and the winding pathway leading from our house down to Hollandine's.
Hollandine grocery store.
Small grocery store on Museum Drive at the bottom of the canyon. I remember running many errands for Mom to this small store where I heard discussions regarding national politics with names such as Herbert Hoover, Al Smith, etc. Also big prize-fighting names like Dempsey, Firpo, and Sharkey. The Southwest Museum with its long, dark tunnel leading to an elevator that took patrons up to the top of the tall main building on top of a hill overlooking Sycamore Grove, the Arroyo Seco, and the Monterey Hills. The Stringer kids used this adventurous facility as much as the elevator man would allow. The Hopi Trail, which wound up from the canyon floor to the top, was an option for hikers. I was a member of the Hopi Indian tribe. No. At the top of Mount Washington was a city-sponsored recreational clubhouse. I remember attending Woodcraft Rangers meetings at night, and then going home down a 2-mile dark trail thinking about the monster Frankenstein. Moving down to civilization, Highland Park, into a nice 2-story home on Roselawn Place. I attended Monte Vista Grammar School and then became a student at Luther Burbank Junior High, which was considered a model design for a junior high in those days. It was a beautiful new set of buildings with Mayan styles of architecture. At this school, my learning and attitude towards schools, friendships, and appreciation of teachers got off to a good start and continued on through junior high and high school. I'll never forget the friendships with both fellow students and teachers that developed there. I had a strong, creative, even wild imagination. Read World War I stories in War Ace pulp magazines about brave, adventurous young men flying in Spads. Fokkers. Nieuports, SE-5s. Their dogfights in the skies over France and the Western Front were exciting. Sometimes I would pretend I was one of them, even to the point of sitting with them in a little French cafe near their aerodrome, enjoying a drink of cognac, discussing their adventures of the day. That's awesome. You had a great imagination, it sounds like. A glass of sweetened tea looks a lot like Snoopy, who also has a wild imagination. USC and Notre Dame football games, which were broadcast over the radio, aroused national interest, and mine especially. Listening to Ted Husing, probably the greatest sports announcer there was or will be, describing one of these games was an exciting experience, especially if one had a strong imagination regarding the stadium, crowd of spectators, the players, etc. I even had a tabletop replica of a stadium and playing field in front of me to indicate where the scrimmage line was. Following the air adventures of pioneer aviators like Roscoe Turner, Jimmy Doolittle, Wiley Post, and Charles Lindbergh aroused my interest. They were my heroes. Being a student at Franklin High School and being taught by some wonderful teachers influenced me greatly. I am eternally grateful to these teachers who were caring, compassionate, and very clever at bringing out the best in their students. Franklin High was one of the 5 major high schools in Los Angeles in those years. I got involved in the journalism class. A fine teacher, Kate Cranon, pushed me into writing for the Franklin Press, our full-size 4-page school paper. Our classes had some very talented writers. During the 1938, 39, and 40 years, the Franklin Press won 2 All-American awards for being the finest high school paper in the USA. This contest was decided by a board of judges in the state of New York, so it truly was a national contest. I guess being the co-editor for the 39-40 years was the highlight of my high school days. Wally Mitchell, one of my best friends, was the sports editor. He was killed on December 7th, 1941 at Pearl Harbor. I got the chills. He was one of 6 Franklin High Winter 40 graduates killed there. Our family was living on Monterey Road when I graduated from Franklin High Winter 40. I remember Rex, our wonderful dog, Santa Fe Hill, the train bridge over the Arroyo Seco River, which I crossed over going to Franklin High. The large, fun-filled family picnics, Christmas celebrations playing Who Has the Thimble at the dinner table during dessert? Today I feel that I am the luckiest guy this side of Chicago. I could easily say in the whole world, but I'm sure there are millions of other guys who feel as I do. It's very diplomatic sounding, the way that he writes. Did you want to tell any stories about your brother?
You're doing great, honey.
Oh, great.
I want to know, is Who Has the Thimble like Tippet?
Yeah, what
Yes,
is it?
is. Same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing.
So now I know where Tippet came from.
Oh, is that the end of it?
That's the end of what Stan had to say.
Oh,
There's a part in there about his warriors, actually.
There is, and I do have that
Page
marked.
57 or 6.
About what?
His warriors, 57.
77. Okay.
A bit from his booklet that you were looking for.
Oh, perfect.
Well, that was 57.
Ah, Stan in World War II. Did you want to read it?
You're doing great.
All right.
You're making us nervous, though.
Yeah, we
Are you
don't want
scared
you
of
to
me on the
fall.
rock?
Yeah.
Well, then I'll sit on the rock.
Okay. And Carmen goes back into the...
Is this on video?
I hope so.
It would have been had I fallen, but
Yes.
now we're not going to put it on either. Stan in World War II. Note, Stan wrote a story called An Experience to Remember, which was distributed to all his siblings. The first 7 pages of that story and his painting of one of the planes he flew are included here. So I'll just read some parts of it. 3 years out of a lifetime made a very strong impression. Strong enough to keep memories alive in the present, even though it all happened more than 53 years ago in the past. Not all of the memories are bad. There are some happy ones, which are the rewards. My participation in World War II started in August 1942 at the South Pasadena, California Draft Board. I asked the draft board clerk, a very nice lady, if I could choose to enlist in the U.S. Army Air Force instead of being drafted into the U.S. Army. She informed me that I must be a naturalized U.S. citizen to be in the Air Force. She already knew that I was born in Canada and that my age was 19 years. To become a naturalized U.S. citizen, I must be 21 years of age. She then offered to send my papers to the Canadian Embassy in Washington, D.C. with my request to enlist in the Royal Canadian Air Force, which was accepting enlistments for eligible young men in the United States who qualify for a release from their draft boards. Because I was still a Canadian subject, she could release me from the U.S. draft. I asked her to proceed, even though in my heart and mind I knew I would always be an American, and that I was helping America's cause by enlisting to fight against America's enemies. In less than a month, I received a large envelope in the mail from the Canadian Embassy, Washington, D.C. In it were my instructions to report to the Canadian Services Enlistment Center in Seattle, Washington in 3 weeks. The train and meal tickets were all enclosed. It was mid-October when I arrived in Seattle after experiencing a first-class train ride from a warm Southern California climate into what became a much colder and damper one. The procedure the Canadian government followed was to have the Canadian Army in Vancouver do all the medical examinations and approve my transfer into the RCAF. While going through this routine, I met 10 fellow enlistees from the USA. A fellow from Chico, California, and I became good friends. And then he goes to Manitoba, Toronto, McDonald near Winnipeg, and this is where they're teaching him all about flying and guns and crazy stuff that a 19-year-old, that's phenomenal for a 19-year-old to know. When it crossed the Atlantic, his ship was the Aquitania, and it carried 18,000 troops. It was the 4th largest ship being used by the Allies for troop transporting. We traveled south at first toward Bermuda in order to avoid German submarines called the Wolf Pack, which preyed on ships leaving Halifax. Our speed was faster than the submarines, but we zigzagged our course to keep them from tracking us. After we reached the Gulf Stream, we headed north towards England in good sunny weather. On the 5th day, land was sighted. It was Northern Ireland, a beautiful emerald green color. After rounding the north tip of Ireland, we steered south in the Irish Channel and docked at Liverpool, the busiest port in the UK at that time. It looked very busy, and British Navy planes patrolling overhead signaled welcome to us. So then they go to Ossington, near Nottingham and Newark-on-Trent in the English Midlands, almost in the Sherwood Forest Robin Hood country. And that's where they began their operational training, flying in twin-engine Wellington bombers. The pilot was Harry Cowan from Ottawa. The navigator was Alex Campbell from Toronto. The bomb aimer was Walt McColney from Vancouver. The wireless operator was Keith Rupert from Ottawa. Mid-upper gunner was Mike Guthman from Vancouver. And rear gunner was Stan Stringer. Oh man, I've heard that rear gunner is like the most dangerous thing you can be.
Just hanging out there.
Oh man, and then they just go and they attack all these targets in the Ruhr Valley and in Germany. They were flying right over Germany. The German anti-aircraft batteries assumed that they had hit us. Harry's quick reaction saved us. On a very dark night in the middle of Germany, flying at 18,000 feet, I was scanning the sky to see if I could observe any kind of object in the blackness surrounding us. We were flying in what is called a bomber stream, going to the target area about 50 miles ahead. The air gunner's job was to be the eyes of the aircraft to help the pilot keep a safe distance from other aircraft in the stream, as well as finding German night fighter planes. A strange sight caught my eye. 4 very dim, pink-red rings were coming right at us on our port side at 9 o'clock level, same altitude. Instantly, both Mike, the mid-upper gunner, and I shouted simultaneously over the intercom, "Dive, skipper, dive!" Harry pushed the plane into a dive, but the oncoming 4 red-hot engine manifolds went over us as close as 10 feet. The prop wash caught the underside of our wing and flipped us over upside down. The plane was completely out of control, carrying a very heavy bomb load and lots of fuel. In a few seconds, Harry said over the intercom, "You guys get ready to bail out. I can't control this thing." I could bail out, turning the turret 90 degrees, opening the sliding doors at my back, snapping on my chute, and falling out backwards. Harry's voice was shouting just as I started to pull out the intercom plug. "Hold up, guys! This thing is beginning to pull out." No one had bailed out yet. After falling probably 8,000 feet, Harry had the plane leveled out and on a course to England. Harry's expert, quick reaction saved our lives.
Wow.
Girls, you want to sing a song for our brave Uncle Stan?
I'll take a picture.
Do you want to be near the rock or on?
Okay. Is that right? Okay. What a grateful heart, so filled with years of living. Memories flow by me like petals on a stream. My grateful heart forgives so many sorrows, brings peace that lasts forever, illuminates the dream. God be with you till we meet again. Neath his wings protecting hide you. Daily manna still provide you. God be with you till we meet again. Till we meet, till we meet, till we meet at Jesus' feet. Till we meet, till we meet. God be with you till we meet again.
All right, on the count of 3, we'll all let go of our balloons together. Godspeed, Stan. We'll meet again. We love you. 1, 2, 3.
All right, yay.
Bye, Stan.
Oh, they missed the gazebo.
Yeah, let's go.
There he goes in his little airplane up there.
Yeah! Perfect. Oh, perfect, Greg, because see the plane right there? I love it.